with over 11,200 Americans turning 65 every single day. That's correct, every single day. And urologists, being mostly a lot of us are taking care of older patients, it's not surprising that your inbound patient volume is out of control. Just within the last several days, I'm reading posts in the Thriving Urology Practice Facebook group of people asking how to manage all that inbound traffic, the call volume, and also what to do with all the information that is coming into your offices. That is something that we face every single day. Well, have I got a treat for you? Rachel Brown is a co-founder and chief revenue officer for Titan Intake that promises to take care of your inbound documents, inbound patient requests in a seamless, easy fashion. Now, I learned about Rachel and her company through one of the members in the Thriving Urology Practice Facebook group. She apparently has been using it for a long time with great success. I believe she has, I think, 20 physicians and APPs in her group, and she just raves about it. So I couldn't help myself but invite Rachel to speak about her company. Without further ado, Rachel Brown.
Thanks so much, Dr. Lynn. Really excited to be able to chat today.
All right, tell us a little bit about Titan. So first of all, having sat on, let's see, a finance committee, investment committee, in an angel investment fund, I've heard a lot of pitches. There usually is a problem, an itch, a why, which made you co-found Titan Intake. What was the problem that you're trying to solve?
Well, I was in an MBA class in 2021 when I met these two guys that had been in IT and operations in independent urology and also in the oncology space. And they start telling me about faxes flying all around the background of our healthcare system and how it takes a team of human beings to read through, sort, understand what's what, transcribe all of that into the EMR, all before a patient even gets a phone call. And I really connected to that problem from the patient lens because the year prior, my stepdad had been diagnosed with cancer, and we ended up in a 3 week black hole of information after a really scary diagnosis, just waiting to hear from a specialist on what the next steps in his care journey was. Now I know that his referral is probably sitting in a stack of PDFs or maybe a physical stack of referrals that someone was just trying desperately to keep up with. And if we can accelerate patient care for patients like my dad, that is what the mission of Titan is all about.
Okay, so how does Titan solve that problem? I know we get a lot of requests for appointments and we will get faxes that come in, and then we have to create a patient in the practice management system, enter all that information in, extracting that information from all the fax. That's a human. It requires a human and several humans to do that. How do you guys solve that problem?
So Titan sits at the interception point of all of those incoming records. So we're redirecting your faxes, emails, carrier pigeons, web forms, however those records reach you. Titan sits at that interception point and uses AI and large language models to effectively read ahead of that team member to understand what is this record, how urgent it is, triaging that information, and pulling out everything that's relevant from 2 pages or 200 pages, immediately indexing and sorting all that information. So there's a simple 30-second review of that. And then with one click, we build integrations into EMRs or PM systems so we can instantly create or update a patient record on a few seconds rather than 10 or 15 minutes per record.
So I can really appreciate that automation. It seems like that is the next iteration of this very inefficient system in which we live and operate. So we get these faxes in, and you're saying that somehow your setup, your system has the ability to see what's being faxed, and then somehow enter that information into the EHR. Help me understand that.
Exactly. So, example of a single record coming through. So, we have a fax that comes in, it's a referral. Titan is picking that document up from the fax line, and then we're using large language models to effectively understand all the information that's in that document. We're pulling out the patient's demographics, the insurance information, diagnoses. Again, how urgent is this reason for visit, or is it something routine? Pulling out medication lists, diagnosis codes, previous procedures, order procedures, whatever's relevant for that particular specialty. extracting that information instantly from that document. So there's no more hunting and pecking and scanning page by page through handwriting and poor quality and upside down pages. Titan does that heavy lifting, allowing the person on the other side just to give a quick review and move that patient towards the next step in their care.
Well, that sounds too good to be true. So you can handle these faxes pretty seamlessly, it seems like, through OCR, character recognition, large language AI, and then
Exactly.
somehow interfacing that with the EHR. Is that what, and then putting that information into the EHR automatically?
Exactly, so the user gets that quick review, and we are using a lot of that underlying technology to do that extraction, and then we build integrations in both PMs or EMRs through HL7, ideally FHIR and APIs, the latest and greatest in interoperability, to instantly create, update that patient record, attach that referral, even adding a clinical summary of all of those key data points just at the top, so you as a provider know exactly where to look at the top of the referral for the same information that you care about before walking into an appointment.
That sounds too good to be true because one of the biggest headaches is it requires a human to do that right now for most of
Yeah.
us. Going through, culling through the faxes and then having to index every single one of those records before we can even get the patients entered into the demographics and then
Yeah.
scheduling the appointment. And very importantly, it sounds like you're able to provide this summary, making my job as a physician easier because I can now look at this record and some entity, AI, has already provided a summary as to why the patient is being seen and where the records are located.
Exactly. A lot of our providers have just started dubbing this the Titan. And again, you have the whole record and all the information listed behind it. So you always have access to that. But the key pieces that you care about can be on page 2 or page 20 or lost somewhere on page 50. Titan's going to put it in the same format every single time for you to have a quick peek at those things that you care about.
Wow, that sounds really amazing. So, those of you who are watching this live on the Thriving Urology Practice Facebook group, please feel free to ask any questions, leave any comments. If we can't answer this during the live stream, I'll be sure to pass this on to Rachel in the future. So, tell us about the carrier pigeon and other forms of input, if you will, different types of
Yeah.
referrals. What about patient phone calls, or somebody leaves a voicemail or something like that? Is that something Titan takes care of?
It's a great question. Today, we don't interact with voice or calls, but fax still being primarily the way that referrals are coming in, but also direct message, emails. If you have a form, a appointment request form on your website, all of that can be redirected. So any written out content around a referral, Titan is consolidating, digitizing, keeping in one central place.
Okay, often we get referrals from, as a urology practice, we get referrals from the ER for urinary retention or kidney stones or blood in the urine. And now we sometimes have the ability to get that hospital information in digital format. How does Titan handle that?
Yeah, great question. So that initial referral, maybe just a couple of pages that comes through, it's going to come through Titan the way any other fax would. But if you have connections into your local hospital system where you might go and pull additional records, we've worked with clients to simply build that connection point through Titan intake. And as additional records come through for an existing patient, we actually automatically collate those pieces together. So you might get that two-page referral from from the ER. We're waiting on additional labs or other piece of information. When those come in and hit the Titan platform, we automatically create that into one packet using a patient matching algorithm, similar to how we make sure you don't end up with duplicates in your EMR. We're reading and seeing if there's any other patients that match those demographics and making sure we're updating an existing patient record correctly or attaching multiple records coming in to the right patient.
So you're saying this system is intelligent enough to recognize duplicates and
Yes.
not wow, that is surprisingly good.
It's a huge headache for practices, and one of the drivers for duplicates is also something that Titan Intake solves for through some automated communications. Oftentimes, your referring providers might send a fax after fax after fax just because they're not sure if you received it. Is it lost in the ether somewhere? When a referral hits Titan system, we actually automatically fax back and close the loop with that referring provider with your branding, your messaging, but essentially a thank you note with your logo on top, letting them know that, hey, we received Rachel Brown's referral at this day and this time. Thanks for trusting us with the care of your patient.
Wow, sounds like you really thought through the entire referral process, and closing the loop actually helps the referring doctors feel reassurance that our mutual patient is being taken care of, and that referral coordinator doesn't have to continually worry about, is the patient on the schedule, is the patient scheduled to be seen, etc.
Precisely, and because we had to solve this problem from the angle of everyone that really has a stakeholder in it, from the provider referring that patient to the team member that's processing that document to the provider that will end up seeing them. Similarly, for the patient, we have a communication that can automatically go out, again with customized messaging, but it gives the patient that peace of mind. I think back to when my stepdad was diagnosed, we went into that black hole of information. Any amount of information just to know we were being taken care of would have meant the world, and so we instantly let the patient know, "Hey, Sunrise Urology has your referral. You're in great hands. Expect a call from our team at this phone number." They could be pulling into their driveway after a scary appointment and immediately know that they're in good hands with your team, more likely to pick up the phone, schedule that appointment, and show up just because of that trust built and a great patient experience.
Well, I tell you, I've given a lot of presentations, and this is something that I keep saying. As a matter of fact, I just talked to a patient this second to the last patient today, and about her relationship with her husband, and it comes down to communication. I We personally get a lot of self referrals, if you will, people who leave other practices because of this problem, because of lack of closing the loop, because lack of the practice communicating to the patient that, hey, we have you in the queue, we received this information, we're going to be calling you back, etc. That poor communication is a source of a lot of lost patients and lost care opportunity and lost revenue for the practice.
Absolutely. And we live in a day and age where we expect to know exactly when our pizza is getting its toppings, and when it's in the oven, when it's in the delivery car, when it's on our doorstep. But when it comes to our healthcare, when we're the patient, it can be so difficult to know where you're at in the process, what's the next step. You really kind of do get lost in the shuffle. And the more you can provide to the patient, it is such a more valuable experience, especially for independent practices, to be able to give that elevated experience to patients is how they can stay competitive.
Well, it probably will help improve their patient satisfaction scores, if nothing else. And
Absolutely.
it is so, it's just, it's almost comical that we are talking in 2025, and in medicine, we're talking about faxes. I'm
Mhm.
embarrassed to say that we're still dealing with faxes. Okay, let's switch gears. What about, sometimes the patients will bring in a PDF. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, so we actually have the ability to upload any piece of documentation or records into the Titan platform. So easy to scan in, drop it into Titan intake, still doing all of that extraction, whether it's a handwritten form from a clipboard. Titan's still going to lift up all the information that's relevant, still have the same process of instantly updating creating a patient record in the EMR and attaching that documentation.
Now, at the very, very beginning, you said something about prioritizing. Tell me a little bit more about prioritizing, because we can be getting 2,000 inbound documents, patient referrals from doctors in the vicinity. It tends to get lost if you just have all that information. First of all, humans can't handle that much information efficiently. Number two, now you have Titan. What do you mean by priority?
Absolutely. When those documents come in, as you said, you can have a backlog of maybe 2,000 documents just sitting in an inbox, waiting for someone to double click on each one, open it up, see, is it a Chinese takeout menu? Is it a referral? Is it a prior auth form? Look and see what it is, index it, drag and drop to the next folder. It might be the 2,000th PDF in that list that's really the patient that needed care yesterday. So when those documents come in, we use a customized urgency algorithm based on the specialty, based on what your team cares about. And we're looking for diagnosis code. We're looking for whether the other referring provider has marked this urgent, looking for all of the context clues that indicate a need for triage for that patient and immediately pulling it out. So you might have 2,000 documents that need to be processed, but you're immediately going to be able to see and filter the 50 that are most urgent.
Okay, so kidney stone, or frank blood in urine, gross hematuria, or urinary retention, those might be higher up in the priority.
Exactly.
So now you get this ingest of documents and information. How do I let, how do you figure out what is most important?
So we're able to, essentially in the onboarding process, determine with you what that importance looks like. So we're able to indicate from your specific roles. I mean, oftentimes, front desk or the patient intake team has a piece of paper taped behind their computer with a list of what those things are. That's what Titan's looking for, and not just on page 1 or 2, which, and when you have tons of these records to get through, is maybe as far as that person's able to get. Maybe it's on page 20 is that actual urgent indicator for that patient. Titan's looking through the whole record at the same time, eliminating what can be human error when you have someone that's not clinically trained trying to determine that urgency for you.
Okay, I know you guys were founded in 2022, so relatively new company. Can you share with us some of these successes? For instance, Niwa, is that her name? Who uses Titan right now? That,
Tina.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's got a unique name.
she does. She's
What
awesome.
is? Tell me about that process of what is going on, because she shared it in the Thriving Urology Practice Facebook group. She raved about Titan. Just want to hear about your perspective regarding practice successes or your
Yeah.
client successes.
Their case study is actually particularly interesting. They were in a position, again, 20 plus physicians. They had a huge volume of referrals coming in. And at one point, they had a team of 6 people. All they did all day long was to process these incoming records. And just naturally, as I'm sure you have experienced, 2 of those people just turned over, left the practice in the same week. And suddenly, that team of 4 that's remaining is losing sight. They're increasing their backlog. When we first kind of came in, there's a couple of weeks of backlog. It just, these 4 team members are trying their best, might be working overtime. Akina herself is having to step in to help process those referrals. Titan came in, and now that same team of 4 actually handles more referrals. They've increased their volume than when the team of 6 was processing, and that team of 4 is now handling an even greater capacity. So one quick translation of how that value has been brought into a team and given a single team so much more capacity. But for their practice and for many others as well, another really exciting area where we've seen a lot of ROI driven is all the data and analytics that Titan's providing around referrals. A lot of this information is trapped in PDFs, they're trapped in faxes, and unless that gets typed into the PM or the EMR system, how do you know who's getting your referrals, how often, how those patterns change, geographically, where that spread is? Titan is capturing in real time that information, where your referrals are coming from, how many are coming in, how that's changing, the payer mix, the top reasons for visit. Again, that geographic spread and how these things are changing so that you can make the best decisions for further growing your practice.
Wow. So that I hadn't even thought about that utility, or having all that information and being able to look at that in real time, because I recently looked at my referral patterns based on zip code, and it's an archaic system. I have to go into the practice management system, look at, plug in all these fields, and then here it spits out a list after it runs through the entire database of tens of thousands of patients. But
Mhm.
what you're doing is you can look at what's going on now in real time and trend out patterns. And maybe the practice who wants to have more patients from this one particular referring provider, doctor, primary care, PA, NP, whoever, then the marketing team can focus on this particular entity or physician. The other thing I was thinking about, gosh, there's, with data, you can do so much with this information. So here's something else. Say you have all this inbound request. If there's no response to the referring doctor, that's bad. But also, if you don't respond to the person or the patient being referred, what ends up happening is that patient will now call the office, bog down your
Mhm.
phone intake, and which is another problem. I interviewed somebody recently on how to manage that phone intake problem. So you are pretty much eliminating a bunch of problems and then providing opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of our clients actually see a decrease in their inbound call volume, both from referring providers, again, calling to check in. Did you get the fax? Did you get the fax? I sent it 3 times. But also from that patient, because they've gotten that text immediately, know to wait on your call. They know that where they are in their care journey, and they're more likely to wait on you to call, or you could even prompt them to call them to proactively call in to schedule. Again, all things that could be customized for the preference of the practice.
Boy, that sounds pretty amazing. And once again, for those of you watching live, feel free to leave any questions or comments in the comment section, and I will ask Rachel during this live stream. So, of course, we can't talk about all the great features and stuff like that without talking about the cost model. How does the pricing done with Titan?
Absolutely. So we do a per physician model, and unfortunately, the true but salesy answer is that it can depend on how large the practice is, the feature set that's going to be most applicable and carry the most valuable for your team. But typically, it's just based on that number of physicians in the practice. So it really scales up and down with the size of your practice and what your needs are.
And you said feature set. So I'm hearing that maybe not all practices get all the features, or once you sign up with Titan, you get all the features. How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So we kind of break down our feature set into all the automation that we talked about at the beginning, the referrals coming in, automatically indexing, triage, moving that into the EMR. That's the core of Titan Intake. The only additional features are those automated communications. That's a separate add-on, as well as those analytics. Most of our clients find a ton of value in all three of them that drive that ROI for them. So most of our clients are utilizing all of those features, but for some, they have maybe another patient engagement system, so they don't necessarily want the text going out to the patient. They don't need that particular application. That's something that they could take out of the out of the feature set, and then they're really only paying for the value that they're receiving.
Yeah, pretty much kind of pick what you want. And it seems like just the base set of features is really valuable. And then you can bolt on for
Absolutely.
additional features. I wonder if Titan offers, hey, here's a sneak peek of what you get should you turn on these features.
We definitely talked through in, the initial conversations and evaluation, what things look like. My amazing co-founder runs all of our onboardings and implementations and continues to showcase what these things could look like if we turn some things on. Again, if we've chosen to not start with analytics, we'll give them a sample dashboard at the end of their first month just to see what they might be able to access if they wanted that level of data analytics. We can always do testing on the communication features as well, turn those on for a week, see what kind of impact the clinic sees if they really want to proceed with that full feature set and see the full value.
Well, Rachel, I really appreciate you explaining the why of Titan and also the intricacies of how Titan works and how it would benefit a busy urology practice. Just as to close this out, how do people get in touch with Titan if they're interested in your services?
Yeah, so our website has a lot of information, also a little bit about the story behind Titan Intake, but there should be a link on there to book a discovery call directly with me. You're also welcome to reach out directly to me, Rachel at titanintake.com. Happy to have a conversation, see if this is something that makes sense for a practice, where the value could be. I'll always be transparent if we don't see the value connecting. We don't want to turn someone into an unhappy customer. So really only if there's a strong value there, we'll continue a conversation, be able to walk through a demo and really explore the type of ROI that the practice might see.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. So I will leave your contact link in the video description. And as an aside, I just want to say that it is truly a breath of fresh air, very refreshing to interview someone who is so articulate, who knows how to engage with the audience and the camera, and who communicates so well. As an immigrant who had to struggle through English as a second language, I have become a student of public speaking, and it is so great to interview someone who is so articulate, who does so well in front of a camera. So I can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you very much. It happens when you're the child of a speech language pathologist and a news anchor, I suppose.
That is great. All right, so hang on. Well, I don't see any questions in the comments. If you have any suggestions with future topics, or if you have any concerns regarding or questions regarding Titan intake, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for the privilege of your time. Please take care of yourself and each other. Bye-bye.